Hey everyone, welcome to Ink Scribes, the comics podcast where we talk about the art and craft of comics. I'm Colin Singh, an aspiring artist and lifelong student of the craft. I'm joined by my co-host Eric Zawadzki, artist on assorted crisis events, coming now from Image Comics, and Taylor Stauft, creator, writer, and artist on From Fire and Blood, a Jason Jang adventure. Today, a very special episode, the first in which we look at the career of the master Arthur Adams, specifically his first major work, Longshot, but we also got some tidbits here and there to show you as well. Some really fun stuff planned for this episode.
So basically we're going to look at the first 6 issues of Longshot, which was basically Arthur Adams' first. It was actually his first work for Marvel. Let's take a look at this art book that came out recently. And just briefly, it covers the beginning of his career. And I believe his first. Where is this? This was his first published comic, which was for Pacific Comics in July 1984. Which
Pacific Comic.
How old was he at this time? Did you guys look up his age?
What year was this?
18, 19, something like that.
So this was July 1984, his first published work.
So 2021? Yeah, somewhere in there. Because he's born in 63.
Okay, so he would have been about 20 doing this kind of work.
Yeah.
Also around this time, he created tryout pages for Marvel Comics. And what really appealed to the editors was that he was having the Avengers here do regular work. They're doing the dishes here. And I guess all the submissions involved the characters just fighting.
Yeah.
Just action scenes. So they could tell right away that he could just do, the Avengers at the dinner table hanging out. And then he can also do the action stuff there.
That's a good note to young artists out there. If you put them pitch together, have a variety of stuff that they're doing.
Well, I was going to point out that is still something that's in demand by editors. That's something they look for. Is not so much the talking head scenes, but it's more so just watching characters interact in in a normal environment, you could say. It's not all about punching faces. It's washing dishes and sipping coffee and that sort of thing. Lounging around on sofas and stuff is just as important as punching faces.
Yeah, I think the hammer lifting scene in Age of Ultron, where they're all just hanging out, and then try to lift it.
So here we have a couple of convention. We have a convention sketch, and this is something that his friend Mike Mignola inked. So he and Mike Mignola met at a convention and became friends, and collaborated on a couple of pieces.
Two completely different styles, eh?
Yeah, which you can also see here. I think Mignola might have inked the actual version of this too.
And that is one thing that I love about looking at artists, like my favorite artists, especially their early work in the 80s, is that you'll find that a lot of artists like Mignola, or in this case, we're going to find out Wills Petrasio, started out as inkers, and they're inking like other great artists too. There's a lot of that going on. Like, we're going to look at Bernie Wrightson in a future episode, inked by Charles Vess. Bill Sienkiewicz is all over the place. He's inked a lot of artists back in the 80s too. So, yeah, I love that stuff. I love finding about that stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of it was from a time when it was like, you should know. Well, I mean, this is still true, but they really hit home. You should know every part of this process, or as much as you can, like pencil, ink, letters, colors.
Yeah, so I want to point this out. This is basically, this was done by Mike Mignola and Arthur Adams for some sort of it's for the Telegraph Wire number 19. I think it was just some sort of zine that went out to comic shops to promote stuff. But this is both of their breakout characters at Marvel. So around this time, Mike Mignola worked on the Rocket Raccoon miniseries, and Arthur Adams got his start working on Longshot. Both brand new characters. Do you guys know the actor Miguel Ferreira?
Yeah.
He's from RoboCop and Twin Peaks. Uh,
Oh,
he
Yes.
yeah,
he
yeah.
created a Marvel character. He co-created and co-wrote a Marvel character called Comet Man, also in the '80s. And yeah, Marvel, I guess, in the '80s was just creating a lot of random new characters, a lot of weird characters. Like these are two very weird characters here.
They
Uh,
sure are.
and
Yeah.
the only reason Longshot, I think, one of the main reasons Longshot is remembered is because he eventually joined the X-Men universe, but he wasn't designed to be an X-Men character. And Rocket Raccoon kind of disappeared throughout the '90s and most of the 2000s, and only made a resurgence because of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But what happened to Comet Man?
Good
Well,
question. Yeah.
so
What did happen to Comet?
Is there an inked version of that Spider-Man cover in that
so
book?
That's a
the
very
no, we'll have to pop it up on online. But yeah, I do believe it was inked by Mike Mignola. So this is interesting because what do you think of the colors on this cover? Because these are the inks. Like it was not designed to have this like circle. It's kind of a
Yeah,
mess without that circle, right?
I'm
yeah.
kind of caught off guard with that because I didn't think any way about the colors on the actual cover, but now seeing the original art, like this is the first time I'm looking at the original inks, and now I'm like, what could have been? Like, why did you do that? Look at how much
Yeah, I
you
mean,
lose.
I guess Marvel Production did this.
Yeah.
So you prefer the original, Colin?
Uh, well, I mean, looking at it now, of course, but like, there's so many other different color variations you could have. There's so many different approaches you could have taken to that cover and still maintained
Yeah,
all
you
that
could have
detail. Like, I
yeah,
don't
you
know
could
if
have pulled
Adams was
stuff forward.
heartbroken after looking at the cover or what, but that's a lot of work right there.
I just think it looks so interesting. It's like it's a wild cover just because of the cover.
Yeah, yeah,
It's distinctive. I mean, is the thing, right? The production cover as it appears on the actual issue, like that's going to grab you, especially if you're like a 12-year-old boy. You're probably thinking like, what the hell is Longshot?
Yeah,
But I can appreciate why they did it. But no, I'm with you, Colin. Like seeing what we have, what we could have had, like, oh yeah, somebody could have colored that to pull all of it together.
okay, so let's show this on stream. So these are this first one is an advertisement at the time for Longshot.
Is it weird that this new artist is given the chance to launch an all new character?
obviously the budgets for paying the artist salaries and stuff like that. You know, on a book that's an unproven character, it's a 6 issue standalone series, and you can even take into consideration that they had Spider-Man show up in issue 4, 5, whichever issue it was, to kind of spike the sales on the book. Getting a new unproven artist would actually probably be a smart bet as long as he can, deliver on the work.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah. If it's unproven, you're either thinking, well, what does it matter if nobody buys it, we can cancel it if the
Yeah,
sales are good enough. Or
because you know, Arthur
yeah, and
Adams, the
he's not
work's going to be
smart.
good regardless of how much he's paid. And obviously, this is at the start of his career. He was probably getting paid whatever the minimum wage was for an artist at that time. So the work was going to
Yeah.
be the quality it was, regardless of how much he was getting paid, because he has to prove himself, right? So I think it may have just been an editorial or a whatever the sales and marketing team or whoever does the budgeting for their books, it would have been a smart bet on their end to employ a fresh face for it.
And Nocenti was an editor at the time, and for whatever reason, she wanted to get into writing, and so she came up with this story bible for Longshot, which you can find in the Arthur Adams Marvel Omnibus. and they passed it around to, like, the story is they passed it around to every single artist that they could find, and everybody said no. And Arthur Adams was this newcomer, and he was the only one who said yes. And
Good
yeah,
instinct.
that's. I mean, he was hungry as well. He wanted to be a comic artist, and he was like 19 years old. But it's an ideal book for him because he loves drawing creatures and monsters and weird stuff, and it's a weird book. So, but I mean,
Not
it
nearly enough babes, though.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's got Spiral, which is can we agree Spiral's the like biggest character that came out of this entire series?
She's the only one I knew of. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's
You
definitely one
did
of
you
my
not know
favorites.
about did you not know about the character Longshot, Taylor?
Only actually only through Ultimate Marvel, and knowing that they specifically made him a mutant in that version, and
Right,
I
they
thought,
changed. Yeah.
You mean
yeah, and I
you
thought,
mean
oh, that's a good idea.
the Ultimate Universe long shot? You don't
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Brian K. Vaughan might have uh, um, brought Longshot in, but
honor
I'm not sure.
Kirkman, yeah.
And I think he brought
yeah,
in Mojo as well, and
he
Mojo
did.
was
Yeah,
the second big character. I think probably Mojo is bigger than Longshot, right?
I think so. Yeah, because Mojo shows up in oh, what is it? X, just like adjectiveless X Men with by Pepe Larraz.
Okay. So this second image here is the he did years later. This is the cover for the trade paperback that Marvel released, and talking about the genesis of Longshot. Before Arthur Adams was involved, editor Carl Potts drew this image as a design for Longshot. So, what do you guys think of this Longshot design by Carl Potts? On the left, on the
Mm.
right is Arthur Adams. So it looks like standard superhero fare. It does not look
Yeah.
like a special, unique, interesting new book.
It looks very square jawed space hero sort of thing.
Yeah, it's got the usual spandex, and um, also he's got a glowing eye, but also he's got a tattoo of the
Is that what's
glowing
happening?
eye. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This was before
I think
cable.
Arthur Adams in an interview brought up that like that was the first thing he got rid of because it makes no sense that his eye glows, but also it's got this thing on his face. But also we have here this is our Arthur Adams' designs. So when he came aboard, so it looks like he tried to use Carl Potts' design here, but then deviated from it and
They both
eventually
still
settled
have
on.
the that Ziggy Stardust vibe though.
Yes, that's what
Both
it
of those
is. I've been
both
trying to. It's been clawing at me. Like, what does this remind me of?
yeah,
Oh
Rocky
yeah,
Horror.
like
Yeah, yeah.
very
It's
80s.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. It's a kind of a combination of the two because it's definitely like the Ziggy Stardust mullet
Mm.
thing, and then yeah,
Yeah,
the Rocky Horror
well, I
Show.
guess this was the final design he settled on, and then this is the Ricochet Rita design, which is modeled after Ann Nocenti.
Is that so?
Damn.
Yeah. And when you see the comic, you can see that she's got very distinct figures. Ricochet Rita, like she's not drawn like a generic superhero heroine. She looks kind of like a real person, and
Well,
she is. She's Ann
bro,
Nocenti.
those headshots are probably based off photographs or life drawings of Ann Nocenti, no? Especially that fifth one there,
Um,
second
yeah, I'm
row.
not sure. I mean,
They have
maybe
to.
No,
Yeah.
but come on, just look at them. Just look at them as they
Yeah.
or
are.
I mean, he's kind of a prodigy. Maybe he's just drew her enough in these like head sketches that he got her face down. But it's a possibility he used life drawing. I'm not sure.
At
We can't.
19 years old, do you think he's got this photographic memory already?
Oh my god!
You never know.
Look at these 6 issues.
Come on.
A 19-year-old drew these 6 issues. These are stunning. These 6 issues like inspired an entire generation of artists.
That's true. I was going to bring that up. Not just, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, like a lot of the image guys are spawned from
I mean,
Adam.
this is undoubtedly a prodigy. Um,
Yeah, yeah. If you, I have to say, knowing that he was 1920 drawing it, it's kind of it's increasing the my view of this book. Like that's if he had been like 28, I'd be like, come on, man. But 21, damn.
But yeah, you can see here that he gave this as a gift
Oh,
to
okay.
Ann Nocenti.
Oh, that's cool.
So this was in '83 before Longshot. So he, I guess, drew her a couple times leading up to that, and then eventually put her in as the character Ricochet Rita. I think this is all I need to
So you
show
want
off of this book. We'll probably look at this book more in future episodes that we'll do on Arthur Adams, because there's a lot of interesting things here. This is him doing Gumby. Um,
to be
but yeah, a
clear,
lot of really.
was this the
Oh,
Kickstarter book?
remember this. We're probably going to come back to that a little bit later.
That
Sorry,
was the.
this was done by Flesk.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know, by Flesk. They do really cool art books.
Right.
Um, but
I've found some photos of Ann Nocenti from the 80s.
Yeah, she was a dimey dime.
so yeah, what
That's not
do
going
you
into
see it
your
Yeah,
now?
mouth.
You see the Ricochet Rita?
I do, but I also see like the simplification and maybe a bit of I don't know. What's the opposite of exaggeration? Like the kind of like, oh, some things are a little dialed down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
But yeah, it's clear that she is like she's serving as the basis at the very least. Yeah, because she's got quite a distinct look. Uh, and yes, as Colin says, a dimey dime.
uh, so also I want to say that this comic took him. The first issue took him 8 months to do, and
What?
Whoa!
yeah, and in fact, I think he threw out half of his first attempt and then
Eight
restarted.
months?
So he's got no deadline.
Yeah, I mean, he was living at home, and I, Anna Nocenti was an editor at Marvel, so I think she had a little more pull than your average writer,
Yeah.
and the pages were coming in slow and they were detailed, and this was Anna Nocenti's first attempt at a script, and she has admittedly said that she changed her process after this because she was putting way too much into these scripts, and he was not like skimping out on anything. He was
Hmm.
everything that was in the script he was putting in the pages, and so these were like 12 panel pages every page.
Mm.
And there was a point where they threw out a whole bunch and then said just start over. And
What?
yeah, I think this was going to be an ongoing series,
Man,
but
I hope
it
he
would
got
just
paid
took
for
so
those.
long to do these 6 issues that
I hope he
it
got
just
paid for
became a
those
limited
thrown out
series.
pages. Jesus Christ.
So this right here is his first attempt at the cover, which
Hmm.
got thrown out and he ended up redoing.
It's yeah. I can see why. It's the beginning of an idea. It's not the final idea. The pose is just it lacks dynamism or some. I don't know what it's missing, but
But I mean, when you're an artist, the most improvement you do is early on,
true.
and over the course of like 8 months or so working on one issue, he probably did this cover like early on and then improved so much and then just wanted to throw it out and redo it.
Yeah, he had to go back. The
Uh,
sickness compelled him.
yeah, and so this is like an early sketch of that cover, and then it was kind of reworked to what it eventually became.
Yeah, he pushes it even further to get the more of the
That
diagonals to give it more of a sense of
that
motion or
that sketch
dynamism.
is dated 2001.
He signed it. He signed and sold it 2001,
Oh, okay.
which is a little confusing. But if you go to the Heritage Auctions website where it was auctioned off, it says all that. It basically, it clearly is. This is not 2001 Arthur Adams that drew this. Like,
Yeah.
this is clearly 80s or like very early Arthur Adams, and you can see like he adjusted the pose a bit. He like kind of reversed it, and then you know put this Magog character on the other side, and yeah. But
But before we get into the first issue, I just want to. The cover is a good example of this. Arthur Adams, obviously. Eric. I know, especially he's one of our favorite artists. He's one of my favorite artists. But every artist has like this sort of this niche, would you call it, where, like, for example, Adam Hughes draws beautiful women. I mean, Arthur Adams does the same, but proportionally you can tell from this cover alone, like, how the legs are like twice the size of the torso. But it's because,
Yeah.
like, but it's fine. Like, he makes it work. It's part of his reality. This is what he's channeling on the page, right?
Yeah.
His sort of take on his take on the world, and it works
But I mean,
perfectly. But sorry, I just want to say that, like, then you can see the other extreme, which, Liefeld definitely adopted this too. McFarlane
yeah.
as well. Like, the legs are like 3 times the size of the body, So they just took it and ran a little too long with it, I think.
But that's the thing when we discuss these like stylistic quirks. Oftentimes, an artist will be approached and they'll say, "Well, you draw really long legs," and the artist will be taken aback and, "Oh, do I?" Sometimes the artist just draws what they draw, and they don't realize if something is off or unusual or odd. For
That's yeah.
example, like in interviews around this time, he was told that, well, you do very specific smiles. Like nobody does a like gritted teeth smile like you. And I think his response was just sort of like, well, it wasn't really intentional. It was just that's just how I drew it.
Mm,
And a lot of this stuff is unintentional. And they say that style is everything you do wrong, and there is a danger where this stuff is pointed out to artists, and they, out of some sort of insecurity, they sort of like start erasing a lot of that stuff and getting better and better, but losing the interesting quirks of their styles. Like, for instance, he doesn't do those smiles anymore, but to your point, Colin, he still draws really long legs.
Yeah, Daniel Warren Johnson has a story about being told, somebody pointed out how long he drew arms for a while. And he was like, now I can only see that, and purposely worked against it. Check out our Daniel Warren Johnson episode.
Okay, so yeah, most of this series is done by Wills Portasio, but uh, some of it was inked by. Geez, I looked online. Because it says Anderson and Portasio did this first issue. I looked online and somewhere it said Brent Anderson, but everywhere else
I
it
was thinking Brent.
said,
I was thinking Brent. Brent did a
yeah,
lot of work in the 80s.
yeah, Brent Anderson. Everywhere else says Brent Anderson, and this was on Heritage Auctions. This page, and it's on Heritage Auctions. It says Brent Anderson. I can tell this page was Brent Anderson because there is some non-archival ink on the page, and on all of the rest of the series, which is all credited to Portasio, it's all archival ink. And what I mean by that is you have the ink seems to be turning red over time.
Why does it say best Bill Anderson down at the bottom then?
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
What did it say?
maybe Brent is his pen name.
Yeah, maybe. There's just like somebody's written in ballpoint pen, best, comma, Bill Anderson. But
Yeah.
Where does it say?
But
Sorry, is that on the original or on the actual page of the
yeah, on
comic?
the bottom of the original.
yeah,
Oh,
on
I can't
the
make
left
that
hand.
out.
So actually, what do you guys think of Longshot's hair?
In the
I
rain
hate it.
or when it's dry?
Well, just in this panel
Well,
here
okay, so it was
on
conceived
the
as like a space mullet, again, like Ziggy Stardust or Rocky Horror, but Jim Lee, my first exposure to Longshot was when Jim Lee drew him in X-Men. And he didn't really do it as a mullet. It was just more just like, the anime long hair, like the way the Japanese
Yeah.
characters have, like, just long hair covering like one eye, that kind of thing. That's kind of like what Jim Lee was doing. But now seeing these pages, I was like, I'm glad Jim Lee drew his hair the way he did. He updated his look.
Yeah.
I saw
That
a
would have
kid at
been,
the
yeah.
gym with this
do you
Because
guys
haircut
this
just
is
today.
woof.
really?
Yeah, some high school
Uh,
kid.
The broccoli headed boys are letting
Oh,
it
no,
grow
no,
out in
no,
the back?
not well. There's the they're 90% of the young population now, but like once in a while you get
Yeah.
with a mullet too. So
Ugh, yeah.
uh, Do you guys know the Britpop UK 80s band Kaja Gugu,
Nope.
I've heard that name, but I don't know anything about them.
or the pop star, the lead singer of that, Lamal? Because I was not aware of.
Ooh.
Well, here we have Lamal.
Oh my god!
This is where Arthur Adams got the haircut.
Oh my god! I really thought it was a
It looks
Ziggy
exactly
Stardust thing.
like him.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that's Longshot right there.
Wow.
Tonight will be the night. Your eyes.
Yeah, pretty funny. But
Lamal.
okay, so with we've that was an incredibly long intro to the actual comic. So let's get to the actual comic. Um, yeah, so Longshot number one. What did you guys think of this entire series?
I first read this uh, in high school in my teenage years, and I didn't think anything of it. It was more so, when you're just reading to catch up on the lore of your favorite thing, which at the time for me was X-Men. I read the Longshot series because he was a supporting character in X-Men, and I just didn't. But now reading it in preparation for this episode, um, there's some hokiness in there. Um, starting from the first issue, like where he's just so oblivious to, he can't tell the difference between a real person and a mannequin, for example, or
Yeah,
he's
it's a
running
fish
around
out
with
of
the
water
homeless
story.
people. Yeah, fish out of exactly, but they really they stretch it a little bit. I think there's some eye rolling
Yeah,
in there for sure.
yeah. It was. I'm going to use the same term. I didn't think much of it, although there is stuff I like about it. It's kind of a reverse Swords and Planets, like which is typically like John Carter of Mars or Adam Strange, where an Earthman goes to some faraway world and encounters a barely dressed princess and evil warlords and kills a bunch of people with swords. Uh, and this is kind of the exact inverse of this. Like he's this extra dimensional hero that winds up in what is probably the worst era of human history, the American 1980s, and
Yeah.
is just like completely unprepared. That said, yeah, some of the stuff that precedes it's like it's a little hand wavy,
Bro,
Oh yeah.
but it,
did I
And
it
hear you
Nocenti is
is
right?
very political.
Did you just say that the '80s was the worst point in American history,
absolutely yes.
bro?
No, there's much worse. There's much worse.
Bro,
He's just
'80s gave
being
us Blade Runner, RoboCop. Okay, it gave us
And that's
Empire
fair.
Strikes Back. Yeah,
You know what? You got me with RoboCop. Greatest movie of all time. I'm
Watchmen,
not going to
Dark
argue.
Knight Returns, Daredevil. Come on, man. Come on, man.
But it's interesting to see the things that he will develop into the Art Adams that we all know.
Yeah, it's this is I mean, this guy's a 19-year-old. I think he turned 20 probably throughout the process of working on this, but yeah, crazy to see
What
how
did you,
impressive this work is.
what did you think of it, Eric? Because I know for both you and Colin, Arthur Adams, a
He's the
touchstone,
one.
Mount Rushmore,
Yeah,
just the goat, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, for me, Arthur Adams is one of those rare artists that gets better with age. Like he's
yeah,
never been better than this very year, um,
yeah,
and that's very rare.
I'd put Frank
Um,
Quietly in that caliber too.
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, Adam Hughes and not many other. Well, I put
Yeah.
in that category, but I read this when I was a kid. Like this very comic I bought like probably 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago. I don't know. Probably in the late 90s I bought this in like back issue bins at Hourglass Comics. But um, yeah, I didn't read it again until this year actually. So uh, I I didn't think much of these comics. They're very dated, but the sixth issue I loved, and there's
Mm.
there's a very specific reason why that one works more than a lot of these others.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll go into more detail a little later. I just wanted to point out that like you can see that little Rob Liefeld probably read this, and he also ended up being like in his young 20s working on Marvel, and he took this glowing eye and gave it to Cable, and like Longshot has luck powers, and he gave that to Domino. Even like this guy's hair right here, that's like Cable's hair in the early appearances.
That's true.
So
The Widow's
uh,
Peak, yeah.
yeah, you get the impression that like this comic, like these 6 issues, kind of inspired the image generation of artists.
That's a good point about yeah, the just like grabbing things from people. I have to say I do really appreciate how this story sets up how the luck powers work, because like it's probably the best power to have. Like everything just kind of works out for you, but then with the twist that comes later on, it's like
Yeah,
that's that's dramatic. That's great. I love
that
that.
he's like, which we can say, I guess now that I guess he's like affecting when he's experiencing luck, he's like taking that away from other people. They're
Yeah,
experiencing bad luck, so
yeah,
there are consequences.
yeah. The cost of it, and just like, well,
This is a
you
lot
have
of
to think
fun.
about it. Yeah,
Actually,
that's weird, eh?
just not more so for Ann Nocenti is I do like that about her writing. She does introduce kind of ideas like that in her Daredevil one with JR as well. The kind of like the give and take or the natural order of things being interrupted and that sort of thing. Um, yeah.
Well, so she at this time she wanted to be a journalist, but she somehow ended up in Marvel Comics, and so she put a lot of her like journalistic qualities into her comics. Her comics were very topical.
Yeah,
The entire Daredevil run, a lot of stuff in here is like commenting on society.
yeah.
Uh,
There
I
is.
think you said it was a little ham-fisted earlier, Taylor. Which, yeah, it's a lot of it isn't subtle in this, but yeah, I think this was her first comic. So
Uh, that's it's also a callback to like the, the feat of clay uh, that Stan put into all of the heroes as well. You know, like, well, yeah, he's got these sonar powers, but he can't see anybody, or you know,
Or
the
but he has
Hulk.
the
He can't. Hmm?
he has the proportional strength of a spider, but he's a fucking loser.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like there's always something to kind of drag you down so that
Yeah.
you're not so that the heroes aren't just, they're not Batman all the time.
Mm.
so in interviews, Arthur Adams comments on, he didn't have a lot of drawing experience at this point, and this was the first time he had to draw a windmill, which has some complications to do with perspective, and it's also the first time he had to draw a baby. um,
Well, I
yeah, there's
mean,
like a baby later on in this. Yeah.
I will take a quick side quest to recount going to the Vatican 2 years ago. There's a babies are a real motif that appear in a lot of the sculptures, and you can tell when artists have like actual children that look like babies, and and some are just like, yeah, sure, they're just like small people, right? And then you end up with these hobbits with wings,
Yeah.
because it is something it's something you don't think about, but like a baby's head makes up a third of their body length.
Yeah. And so here we have the first appearance of Spiral. I think she shows up in like just like 2 or 3 panels, and she's naked through the entire thing. But yeah, it's very handy to have a naked character in a Marvel comic who has extra arms.
Yeah.
You can cover all the naughty bits. Oh fuck! There goes all the comics. Jesus. Sorry, lots of problems. You want to hang out, Shane?
There's a very specific thing I want to hit when we get to it. I think it's in either 2 or 3, but it's Mojo talking about spines.
Yeah.
So
Uh, so-
sorry, before this may not go into the episode, but Nocenti created Mojo and Mojo World too, right? Or was that
Yeah,
Claremont?
yeah, that was all created here.
Well, you take that too. I mean, the fact that it's a race of invertebrates, and she's doing the whole opposites thing, like a whole mirror world
Yeah,
where everything's opposite in a way. You know,
yeah.
I love stuff
So I
like
want to
that.
comment on this panel. I looked at this and thought that is a Will Spartasio face. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, dude, I was gonna
I
say that too. I saw a lot of faces like that before I even looked at the inker, and then when I
But
looked at the credits, I was like, "Oh, it is him."
um, well, we're mistaken because these are the pencils for that page, and he does tight pencils.
Oh, interesting. We'll have to
So
do an episode on Willis
But that
Portacio
bottom
because
right face
I
is
don't know enough about
Petrosio
him.
face.
sorry, that's what, Colin?
The bottom right corner face,
Yeah,
Longshot's face there, that's a Petrosio face for sure.
but
Not that
that
no,
is
obviously he didn't
those
draw it.
are yeah.
He didn't draw
Yeah,
it,
but
but
yeah,
look at
I
it.
thought the same thing, and then went and found the pencils, which are in the Arthur Adams omnibus. Oh, Jade, I gotta
Was
switch
Petrosio
to.
living in the States at this time, or was he still in the Philippines?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, here we get introduced to at the end here we get introduced to his sidekick, Gog and Magog, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a fun thing that he does with every cover, where
Oh,
over the
oh
course
no.
of uh, Jade, go away.
You want me to leave, so I'm gonna have to hang out.
Uh, so yeah, as you can see on every corner box, part of the story is that this Gog character like takes magic away from Longshot, and so he grows bigger and bigger with each corner box, which is very
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes okay. That's cool. I was surprised when they said magic. I was like, that's not really a it's not really a Marvel thing. Like I know they have magic characters, but typically, especially when it comes to like, yeah, we jumped through a dimensional portal. Uh, he's a genetically engineered being. I thought, well, magic. Why would you steal magic?
yeah. Who knows? I mean, Nocenti was more concerned about the characterization and the story than a lot of the world building stuff. In fact, that was
Mm.
like one of the things that apparently, I guess, Carl Potts was on her about. Like, no, you got to explain the superpowers, and you got to explain all this other stuff. I also want to comment on the bottom box here for the
For
uh,
the layman.
direct market ones, the issues, the ones that went directly to comic shops. You would have this Spider-Man box, and then for the
Uh,
ones that went to the newsstand, it would have this. But sometimes artists on the original art, for fun, would draw their own little corner box. Uh, I don't know who the first one to do this was, but I think famously, like the most famous ones are by like Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson. Was this another thing that influenced the image generation?
it
Was Arthur
might.
Adams the first to do this?
If he's not the first, then he's probably the one that they all latched onto, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Because they've got to be thinking, oh well, if he does it, because there is something to the idea of somebody does something and it gives essentially permission to tacit permission to do something. So like long legs or corner boxes or whatever, if it didn't get called out or stopped the first time, it's probably not going to happen a second, third, fourth, or 100th time.
yeah. So here we have the second issue. Um, yeah. Now from going on, I think it's all Will Spartasio. I think Brent Anderson only really helped with that first issue.
This one was a lot more fun, I found.
Yeah, the introduction of Ricochet Rita,
Yeah.
which she's a fun character who's again, like as I said, like that is Anna Senti's face, right?
That definitely is, yeah.
Got like the
That's
dimples and this very specific chin.
that's definitely the closest to the photos I found. But just in general, it feels more like what he will become too.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah. You think it's closer to the
yeah,
Arthur Adams you know?
there's it's later on in this issue, but uh, it's during her filming, and it's or maybe it's the third issue. No, it's this issue. Yeah, and it's a few pages. I'll point it out when it comes, but it's like you can see. Oh, that's what his women will become. Uh, that's a pose that he'll go back to a lot.
Oh yeah, like something like this. You mean or?
No, actually, it's relatively tame. It's going to be her pointing at. It's just a few more past this, I believe. There we go.
Oh, okay.
That that feels,
Yeah.
and I know it's like it's a small thing, but that feels very like it's not quite there yet, but he's dialing it in to like I've definitely seen that in. Actually, what comes to mind is the oral history of the Avengers backup feature that came out in a bunch of Bendis issues, and Adams did a whole bunch of spot illustrations for that.
Okay, so going back, I just want to. So I guess he was known for putting a lot of fun stuff, like just filling the page with fun stuff. And this looks like, if I were to guess, these are like Marvel staffers he's put in.
They've got to be.
Yeah, I think I saw Jim Shooter here somewhere, but yeah, I don't know. But
He should tower over
Interposed.
everybody.
That's probably Jim Shooter right there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, Jade, this cat. Um, Yeah, and Gumby as well. So he ended up putting Gumby in a lot of comics for some reason, and then I guess got hired to do a Gumby comic.
Yeah, I wondered about that because I came across something just saying that like, yeah, he really likes Gumby. I'm like, what? Who really likes Gumby?
Maybe you had to grow up in the '70s. I don't
I
know.
guess, yeah, yeah. It's the only way we learned morals or something.
Here he gets a flashback, and I guess all the rebels look like pop stars. We have like this character is called Jackson. And he's
It's
got a
got
very
that jury.
familiar haircut. So I
Yeah.
mean, maybe it was colored incorrectly, but
Well, I mean, in the eight. Well, no, yeah, 84. Yeah, that's Thriller era. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he was still kind
it's
of brown back then.
yeah, but he does have that Jerry curl, and wash it out, Jackson, because that shit'll light you up.
so yeah, I really like this crying face.
That's a good one. Yeah,
Um,
that's another like,
it's just extremely exaggerated and just gets the emotions across really well.
and it's another one of those like, okay, I can see you are starting to find where you're gonna go.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because he not only influenced the Image guys and that art style, but he also influenced Joe Madureira. And so it's funny how you can see,
Mm,
and those are two completely opposite sort of ends of the spectrum of styles. But it's so funny how you can see Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld in here, but you can also see Joe Madureira. Okay, so yeah, there's something fun here. He would always doodle on the sides of the original art, but that stuff would never really make it to print. But right here, one of his doodles got colored and made it to print, and you can't find this in any of the reprints. So,
that's very fun. Like that's super cool. I love that.
like, was that a mistake, or yeah, I don't know. It had to be a mistake if they cut it out of the reprints, but yeah, very,
But
very,
yeah,
very
like
strange.
why would you cut it out of the reprint? Although, like I could see like Portasio sees it and thinks, "Oh, that's cool," and like joins in on the little doodle.
And then the colorist joins in as well, and then it
Yeah.
gets past production and then makes it to the printing stage.
What is it of though?
It's it's like it's like a chibi version of this character. I suspect.
Oh,
Like
okay.
this is Longshot gets hired as a stuntman. It's a ridiculous story because
Oh
like
yeah.
this is not how the hiring practice works. But he,
This
he
is ridiculous. At that time, the Hulk was a clown in the circus.
yeah yeah. I mean that's comics, I guess. Because I mean it gets even more ridiculous because like the director thinks he dies and then
It's just like, well, that's there we go again. That bottom. No, wait. Can you go back? That bottom left panel of her. Another one of like, okay, this is this is the Arthur Adams I recognize.
right, and then he famously uses that for Storm in the
Yeah.
very famous
The
Arthur Adams
Asgardian,
X-Men annual.
yeah, the Asgardian story.
Yeah.
That's what. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Because I was like, it reminds me of. I know he's done something like that, and the wings and the cape. I was thinking Thor, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was
It's
okay.
just
Now that we've come to this, actually, sorry.
go
The
ahead.
last couple pages here, where the film director tosses Longshot's body into the river, and there's that third last panel where you can see that he's his eyes open and he's staring up at him. That's pretty
Yeah,
fucking terrifying.
right there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I like that he's dropped the background out of the reaction shot. Like, ugh,
Oh
he's
yeah, right
just
there.
seeing me. Like that's a great use of what
As
would
he's
you
getting
call it?
smaller and smaller, it's like
Yeah,
you know, using the direction to convey the emotion.
yeah, yeah.
As he's sort of like feels like he's getting smaller and smaller as he's realizing that he killed this man. I love the ridiculousness of like, well, we got to put him back into his clothes before we dispose of the body, but because in the next issue he's got to be wearing his clothes. Do you guys know who we're speaking about the image? We're speaking about how his comics influenced an entire generation, specifically the image generation. Do you know who influenced Arthur Adams?
I'm trying to think. Colin.
Well, I was gonna hazard to guess, probably Al Williamson, Alex Raven, those
Ooh.
guys, Michael Golden too, for sure.
So these were the comics that influenced him the most. Like he talks about how these two comics just like changed his world.
Really?
Yeah, in high school he was all about this Micronauts comic, and then this comic I think became his Bible. So Michael Golden and Walt Simonson. So he studied how to draw comics by looking at this Walt Simonson comic.
Walt Simonson is not at all what I would have thought, but yeah, his page layouts and how he directs your eye around that totally makes sense. Michael Golden, I can definitely see Arthur Adams grabbing as much as he could from Golden in terms of figure work.
Yeah, and over the course of Micronauts, Michael Golden changes so much. So
Yeah.
yeah, although this issue was huge for him, like I'm sure he studied the entire 12 issues as Michael Golden evolved.
I gotta say, Walt Simonson is one of the very, very few who is still firing on all cylinders into his 70s.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
quality of the commissions that he's doing right now, like he was working on this giant wall-sized Ragnarok commission, and he
Ah,
was posting on Instagram like photos of him like just standing and drawing on this wall and showing close-ups of it, and it's like it's mm, you know what I mean? It's still like a fine wine.
Yeah, it is very
well,
impressive work.
yeah, he's a cool guy on top of it. I had
But he
a
hasn't missed a beat.
brief online
Look at
interaction
Charles
with him.
Schultz. Charles
Yeah.
Schultz, like towards the end, that line was getting shaky, right? That line was getting shaky, but this guy doesn't miss a beat.
So here we have Spiral in costume for the first time. Um, In her first appearance, she was not in that costume. And also, we get the first appearance of Mojo, which this is not the Mojo that we are familiar with. Um, yeah, he looks a little different. But Colin, what do you think of this right here? Does that remind you of anything?
Extinction Agenda.
Um, Maybe a little bit, but then not what I was thinking about. There's a comic that ruled your childhood that I'm thinking about.
Oh, the Omega, dude. You totally. There's so many different things that you can think of for this. But yeah,
Well,
the Omega Red storyline.
yeah, it's just like Wolverine is in these exact same
Yeah.
things. Yeah, yeah, we see a lot of like I guess Arthur Adams was all about doing crazy tech and stuff like this. This is interesting because this is just like a regular power station. Um, Con Edison, and there was no Google image search back then, so he just drew some crazy tech. And Longshot has flashbacks to himself being a slave and
Well,
Mojo
films
being
like
there.
2001 and Star Wars were heavy influences, or not influences, excuse me, a reference wells for artists back in the 80s too, right? They would just pause the cassette tape and or the VHS tape and just kind of draw off what they were seeing on the TV screen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess VHS was. I mean, a decade prior to that, you couldn't get movies in the house as commonly.
Mm.
That whole Mojo section, that really feels like Ann Nocenti putting in a lot of her topical stuff about like spines and being fed what you think you want and everything about everything that comes up with like. But if I were paranoid, wouldn't spines make them better than us, the only ones? What blasphemous thing is this? Like it's very think for yourselves, sheeple.
Well, oh, so is this supposed to be Mojo, or is this just supposed to be a generic spineless one?
That's a good question.
Because I was going to say that, like, first of all, that doesn't look like Mojo, and secondly, like, the very next issue we get something that is purely Mojo because it's a mix of comedy and horror, and this doesn't have any of the comedy elements.
True, and it's missing
So
that big scorpion tail thing coming off the back too.
right, so yeah, what is technically listed online as the first appearance of Mojo? Because maybe this isn't Mojo.
Mojo. Let's see, because first
And so
appearance, Longshot #3, November 1985.
I wonder if that's incorrect because maybe that's just a generic spineless one. Maybe that's not Mojo.
It could be, but it could also be that you know he comes up with the basic idea, but because as you said, Ann Nocenti changed her process after that first issue. Maybe he had to too, and like he had to just keep like draw faster. He couldn't go back and throw out an entire half an issue's worth of work. He had to just okay, well, I'll change it in the next one.
Yeah. So here we get like Spiral dancing to open a portal. I guess in the first issue she
Sure,
needed
why
to
not?
sacrifice a baby to do it, but here she needs diamonds. But then
Yeah,
in the future she can just dance to open a portal. So yeah, I guess a lot of work in progress here.
this whole story though, like the Earthside story, is so dark. Like this borderline family annihilator is gonna go and help Longshot steal these diamonds from a power company. It's
Yeah.
absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, this is not the strongest issue. Um, I'm
You know,
looking
I
for.
want to I want to maybe speculate that between 3 and 4 issues, 3 and 4, like in 3, that is Mojo, and I think the character design for Mojo just kind of evolved between issues, as well as maybe his dialogue and calling him Mojo and other characters, giving them names and kind of fleshing them out as the story went on. I think that's kind of what was the case here. So in number three, that definitely is Mojo, and then moving on to number four, Mojo is
Well,
more defined, more fleshed out.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure when. So this is one of the designs that is out there. So maybe he did it ahead of time, or maybe he did it in between issues. I'm not sure, but um, yeah, it is odd. Um,
Because it
okay,
does
so
feel like the addition of the big head tail thing is kind of a like his walking around accoutrement
yeah,
rather than the office look.
so I wanted to comment that Ann Nocenti was, I believe, uh, she eventually became the editor on Uncanny X Men, working with Chris Claremont. So she had a close relationship with Claremont, and I guess Chris Claremont was in and out of the office, and he saw this Arthur Adams design for Spiral, and just fell in love with it, and I guess said, I want to put her in X Men." So
It is a
And she said,
fantastic design. You
"No,
can't deny, man.
you've got too many storylines going already. You can't have a 80th."
well, uh, she ends up showing up. So this is November, and that same month, November, Spiral shows up.
What?
And
Damn, that's fast turnaround.
yeah, although I'm like it is weird because Longshot probably wasn't even on the schedule by the point when number three was being worked on. So yeah, I'm not sure, but
It's off topic,
somewhere
but
here,
is Dan
let me
Green
get
inked those Romita issues, right?
it. This was Dan Green. Yep.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Looks
So
it's
like
just
it.
their, John Romita Jr. and Dan Green are just way faster than Arthur Adams. They're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, we can take this late submission and put somebody in.
yeah, so she shows up here talking about his mana is strong, she says, but I can weave a pattern of power sufficient to shatter his shapings. So it's just generic magic powers, I guess. Um,
Well, and
somewhere
with
here,
that, with those arms, like, would you know she's a specific character called Spiral? Or would you think, well, okay, so somebody is
well,
patterned off
here
the god Shiva?
it it's referenced here. So
Okay.
if you're a reader wondering who the hell is this character, it's a Marvel comic. You're going to find out if you keep reading, right?
Well, true.
Because there's a mandate to say everyone's name and to introduce everyone. So she says here, an amusing. So just to set up, she's joined the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, being led by Mystique. So
Sure.
she's thinking, an amusing band. This uh, glad I joined them. They're proving a most efficient and entertaining means of learning about this orb and its inhabitants while I wait for the proper confluence of astral forces to enable me to rejoin Mojo and continue our hunt for the runaway. So this is in between
Oh, wow.
Longshot. She's, I guess, Mojo is telling her, go learn about the orb, go learn about Earth, by joining Mystique. Uh, this is a time when if a character was in one book, you have to explain the continuity of it because everything is happening simultaneously, which
Yeah.
kind of broke in the 90s when Wolverine was in every comic and they stopped explaining that. But there are sequences in Uncanny X-Men around this time where Wolverine would be, they'd make reference to him being away, and that was because he was in Japan for his
Right.
first miniseries. So yeah, and that's a fun part of the Marvel books is they carefully track all that stuff. Like even then, I think
It's
in the
impressive
next
that you
issue,
track that down. God damn. Good job.
yeah, and somewhere in here, there's like a write up explaining the continuity of all the X books that were coming out at this time. But anyway, here's issue 4. Um, Longshot was not meant to be an X Men character. That just sort of happened because Chris Claremont fell in love with Spiral and Longshot, and so Spiral became a regular X-Men villain, and Longshot ended up joining the team. In fact, like several months after even that, like Spiral shows up in this really famous Barry Windsor Smith story.
Check out our Barry Windsor Smith episodes.
Yeah, so it's funny. Like we were talking about Comet Man earlier, Longshot probably would have been forgotten if
Yeah.
not for him joining the biggest comic that Marvel had at the time. And then Mojo ends up showing up. Mojo and Longshot end up showing up in the X-Men '90s cartoon for one episode, and but even then, Longshot has kind of disappeared a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not that, because he's not really a mutant, right?
He's not really
Yeah,
a Earthling even.
Yeah.
yeah, and his mythology doesn't fully jibe with X-Men. Like the
No.
Well, I mean,
Mojoverse stuff is fun, but
there's a lot of
Yeah.
things that conflict with him that's hard to keep track of. Like for example, when Ann Nocenti tries to make out with him, and she says, "Oh, his skin is so rubbery, or no, leathery." Excuse me. Like his skin is not the same texture as human skin, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like he's completely fake, essentially, which is why he was getting confused with the mannequins in the first issue. Um, audience, you guys got to just read this. Like this is
It's wild.
yeah, it's pretty out there. I mean, we got a link to the Amazon link down below as well. So pick it up. It's not. I mean, the reason we're doing this is because again, Arthur Adams is a huge influence on modern comic creators, and this is his first major work. And you got to do your due diligence and do your research and pick this up and read it and really dissect it.
Speaking of influence, can you, Eric? Could you quickly flip to the front cover?
yeah,
Check out those Spidey webs.
right. Yes, this predates Todd McFarlane's career.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I know
Fairly
that's
certain that Liefeld may have swiped that Spider-Man pose too
I I
yes.
I
for
know
the
the
cover to
exact same.
X Force
Yep.
number
Yes,
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
actually, actually, hold on a second. I We can find the rough of this. So let me. So on Kindle, you can well, you can get the physical version of the Marvel Universe by Arthur Adams Omnibus, but I have it on Kindle, and so if we go to page. Yeah, I don't like the garish colors on this. It looks a lot better in the newsprint.
Isn't
But
that
That's
always the
always
case?
the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Jinx, buy me some Coke.
so we have the cover here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Check out Spider-Man's legs here.
Hooey.
Oh.
Yeah. He's practically folding himself in half there with that one leg.
Yeah, he's trying to figure out where to go with the leg, and he ends up like keeping this one, and then I guess kind of going with that one.
Well, go back to the cover, the actual cover.
Well, here's the actual cover
Oh, that
here.
is the cover on. Yeah. Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also it feels very much like McFarlane is pulling not just the spiderweb, but also just the kind of bendy, twisty nature of Spider-Man. Because if you look at old web slinging, it's just kind of a guy, you know, mid-air, just kind of grabbing at webs. It's McFarlane who really pushes the agility and flexibility of Spider-Man and makes him like twist up and curl and
Oh
tumble.
Yeah.
yeah,
He draws
and
the
part
best
of the
diagrams.
fun of Todd McFarlane is the how he's being twisted up makes no anatomical sense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's just a lot of fun. Like when Michael Golden and Arthur Adams are drawing Spider-Man, it does make anatomical sense. But Tom McFarlane actually credits a Michael Golden piece for the silly string. The silly string webbing? What's it called?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I think that's what he
silly
calls it.
string, I guess. It's got
So
the
did Arthur Adams get this from Michael Golden?
He's
I
got
guess
to have,
so.
right? Check out
Uh,
our Michael Golden episode on the Nam.
so I did want to show off. Arthur Adams frequently asked for more pages because I mean, well, I didn't comment too much on the earlier pages, but like they were what 8, 9, 10 panel pages. He
Sometimes more,
was
yeah.
cramming so much in there. So frequently he would ask, can I get a little bit more?" And there's a fun we have it in this back matter here. We have his rough layouts and then his pencils. So for this page, which we were looking at, which I had open a second ago, it, it well, first of all, it goes from Peter Parker and She-Hulk seeing this wanted man for stealing diamonds. Longshot is wanted for having stolen diamonds. They're on TV, watching the TV, and then it goes to the next page where he's being kicked out of this store for trying to sell the diamonds. Originally, he cut this sequence into 2 pages, and so you see the shop owner. He's in the shop. He shows the diamonds. The shop owner picks up the diamond and then throws it away, and then kicks him out. And then he looks on, and I guess I suspect he was told, "No, you're not getting more pages. Like,
Yeah,
find a
which
way."
is
And so he
yeah.
cut out the whole shop owner thing, and like it's more efficient. You get the whole thing just in dialogue, right? As the shop owner is kicking him out.
Well, and I think it's a funnier cut too.
Yeah,
Like just cutting straight to get the hell out of here.
yeah. Like I suspect in the Marvel method script, this one page alone just was asking so much. Like he's in a shop and the shop owner rejects him, and then he gets kicked out, and then he looks on at the city, and then Magog shows up, all in one page. And so he tried to get a second page, and in the end, his solution was, I'll just skip the interior of the shop. That's my thinking,
Yeah,
at least.
yeah, probably because that's an important skill for artists to learn is cutting the fat off of like does that really need to be there or can you just say get the hell out of here trying to pay with these diamonds?
Yeah, efficient storytelling. I think these characters are regular characters in the Daredevil run. These little kids, I think they
Are
show
they
up.
in
Uh,
Nocenti's or like
yeah.
upcoming
So
or the
yeah, and
current?
Nocenti's Daredevil run. I think.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay, now it's coming back. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Love
I
the
wouldn't
reference to Star Slammers.
have.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you recognize that kid with the helmet, right?
Yeah, yeah. Now I do.
So actually, I want to go back and forth and look at a lot of these layouts because in this issue, that Magog character finally starts turning heel. He's like
Mhm.
long shot sidekick for the longest time, and then he like reveals his evil ways towards the end. Right here, you can see these kids are running away from their parents, and like you see the shadow of Magog here to hint at the end of the story. But
Mhm.
um, if we go to the actual comic, you can't even see that shadow. It's being hidden by all the dialogue, and so all that like hinting of all that the foreshadowing is just not there.
So that's
Yeah, it
Ann
just kind of
Nocenti's
comes
fault.
off as yeah, it just comes off as like the shadow of an alleyway or something.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of those things where like in the production it's just you know you got to get the stuff done, and maybe the letterer could have reached out and said, can we get less dialogue so that I'm not covering this, or but I mean, Ann Nocenti has talked about how she does not write like this anymore. She learned a lot after this. Actually, she um, she talks about how she I think she kind of half jokingly says she tortured Arthur Adams with like giving him way too much to do, and then after this, for every project that she writes, she does her own layouts just to see how it works as a comic. She
Oh,
doesn't give those layouts to the artist, but it's mostly for her so that she knows.
that's
Till this
smart.
day?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So even for
Wow.
like say
it's
seed?
part of her process.
Really?
Um, Possibly, I know Seeds had a very interesting production. Like David Aja had a very heavy hand in the look of the book and the storytelling style, and so I mean, yeah, it's yeah. I'm not fully certain of that process, but I know she has spoken publicly about that's being her process. He's pretty good at drawing kids, eh? Which is
Yeah.
not easy.
No, yeah, he gets the purport like they're all 4.5 heads tall or five. He's got like the eyes are big. He leaves a lot of lines off their face.
Mm.
Yeah. And so here we have She-Hulk fighting him.
A weirdly skinny She-Hulk. Like I know she's supposed to be, especially like nowadays
She's
you
got pretty
see more.
muscular legs.
Yeah, but she doesn't. I don't know. She doesn't have like a lot of density to her. I don't know. Like when I think of She-Hulk from this time, I'm thinking of oh, it's that one from Byrne where she's like holding up a comic and
Oh yeah.
she's
Buy
like
this or I'll...
big, but she's got curves as well. So
Yeah, I think that lends to like Adam's aesthetic is length over width for his figures,
that's true.
right?
Yeah,
So it's just kind of like this is an Arthur Adams She-Hulk. That's just what she
yeah,
looks
that's a good
like,
point.
you know.
Yeah,
So here we have what we can actually say is Mojo. We're a little uncertain about the last issue, but this is definitely Mojo. I love this sequence so much. What did you guys think of this Mojo sequence?
No, it was good.
Oh, I loved it. It's just manic and wild and crazy. And it's
I can say that definitely the dialogue and the art go hand in hand. This is definitely like a complete scene in that respect, right? It really pulls it
oh my
off.
god, this entire scene alone makes the comic for me.
Mm.
I I realized that she's the only one that has ever written Mojo correctly, and
How's that?
I
yeah,
well,
I mean, she did
I think
creative,
everybody
but
else
how's
leans too
that?
much in. Everybody else leans too much into the comedy element, and this is comedy and horror, so it is funny and horrifying and scary. Um, and the Chris Claremont stuff, which is the stuff I'm mostly familiar with, just leans too much in the comedy. Like this, he's freaking out at calling these women ugly, and then he's declaring. He says everyone looks so ugly. The only face I can look at is my own. Everyone must have my face. Have masks made instantly, uh, so everybody has to wear his masks or what masks of his face. And then later on, these people who've been hunting Longshot return, and they're wearing the masks of his face.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And,
I remember that scene.
and he's this is like a mad dictator who's basically angry at them. Um, is saying, "And why are you wearing my face? Take off my face! You mock me!" And he kills them.
yeah,
Take off my face! He yells. It's mine and no one else's. I'm miraculous. I'm miraculous, and referencing because they said Longshot is it must be miraculous or whatever. Then we have this here where he needs a little therapy or something, so he goes into a room of mirrors to just take in himself. Like this is what a scary dictator is. This is somebody who's absolutely mad, and
yeah,
oh, it's so wild. I love this sequence alone where he's just like getting overwhelmed by himself.
yeah. It conveys the in both dialogue and art the kind of it's like he has this severe inferiority complex, but also but is the complete dictator of this entire world. So it's this constant push pull that just like I'm happy and angry.
It's just madness, and it's scary too that like this is the world that Longshot came from,
Yeah,
and like it's just a mad dictator, and this is why he needs to fight to free all these free all the slaves.
it took me a while to notice. Everybody's got three fingers in this world too. Like Mojo
Right?
has
Yeah.
them, Major Domo has them. The more I notice it, the more I'm like, oh, that is creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like I think it's just a way of like making Longshot look more alien because he's the whole thing is he's a fish out of water on Earth, and so
Well,
he looks humanoid. So what little things can you do to highlight the alien aspect?
Well, and that's one of the things that it made me think of was just how quickly it reminds you when you see his any of their, but especially his hands, because hands are such a human thing, right? Like obviously apes have them or whatever, but Like our hands, everybody knows what hands are, and they are very specific to us. And when you screw them up, it immediately takes you out of this is a person, and it becomes something different. Not necessarily bad, but it definitely sticks out, and
It's odd
it's a
that
good use of that design.
characters
Hmm?
like Spiral still have 5 fingers instead of 4, though.
Does she?
No, are you sure? No, I thought
Well,
when you pointed it out,
the modern interpretations have her with
oh,
five
really?
fingers. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Because
looks like.
here she has.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll be on the lookout for that. Here we have. I found this fun. His interpretation of Spider-Man, his view of being hunted by Spider-Man, and it makes it look like Spider-Man's a bully. So
Yeah.
he feels like he's innocent. He's just being hunted by this crazed man, this crazed Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's just like yelling out insults, and he's just like, "Why all these cruel jokes? Why does he mock me?" And then, and
Yeah, that was
you
a good
know,
part. That was a good scene. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
yeah, and
Spider-Man's
and he continues with his insults, and Longshot's like, "Please, it's not funny." And he's thinking, "Please, it's not funny. Like, why are you being so hurtful?"
I only have 6 words for you. Please be nice to me.
We have more of Ann Nocenti, Ricochet Rita here.
These really look like her. This really feels like that close up there on the left hand page,
Yeah, right here.
middle row. Yeah, that really looks.
And that's probably her dog in real life, maybe. Who knows?
I do want to revisit the hand thing. So in this, Adams draws Spiral's hands with 4 fingers. But modern interpretations of Spiral do show 5 fingers.
That's
Oh,
interesting.
okay. So it's artist dependent.
It is.
I just want to revisit that dog. He manages to slip in the hog of a dog into this
Oh man.
into this comic.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I know, right?
So yeah,
This dog and Bruce Wayne have been the only comic characters to be hanging brain.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting way of showing a sort of flashback to his world, where you got all these stars showing everything as he's slowly figuring out what his past is.
Because this is the psychometry power of his, where he's like reading objects, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got like 8 different powers, and I think the reading objects power shows up like 3
foreshadowing of the
times.
90s.
And I remember when he joined the X-Men team, he only really used his luck power, but there was one comic where Chris Claremont, I guess, remembered that he had this power and found a way for him to use that power, but then it was never used ever again. So this is interesting because originally this was the last page.
Okay.
If you go in the omnibus, you can see the layouts, and well, actually, let me pull that up.
Can we? So while you're pulling that up, I do want to comment on his interpretation of Spider-Man is like 99.9% based off of Michael Golden's Spider-Man from Marvel Fanfare, the one where he becomes the Man Spider.
Cool.
The eyes and the webbing on the costume, it's like Michael Golden's clone.
I love the design that he puts to the eyes. It feels pitch perfect Spider-Man.
Yeah, and look at how detailed he is with this very specific rendering, which like Whilce Portacio follows to the letter, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
So very tight pencils. But so right here we have originally we had it to be continued here. And it was a little bit different. So it was 3 panels to end it, as like Magog grows an eye for some reason, and then he stretched it out over several panels. And then what does it say here? After the initial layout and pencils were completed, a 25th page was added to Longshot number 4. So that might be why he had to lose a page in the beginning, because he had to add a page at the end, possibly. But
yeah, the eye thing never. I didn't clock what was going on.
Yeah, it's a little messy.
Yeah, is it coming out of out of his hand, or is it in his arm?
I guess his hand is creating it on his arm.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not entirely clear, but yeah, this was the extra page.
although that is I think a better beat to end on is just appears out of nowhere, smacks him around, and then you know menaces him.
I guess you get eyes on.
Yeah, they're all over the place, and they also like stuff comes out of them too. It's a bizarre design, but I guess, but it really works for this uh, otherworldly creature that is constantly shifting.
Yeah, and so way back in the day, creators would sign the interior page. They wouldn't sign the cover. But I don't know what the deal with the number sequence here is, and I don't know who signed this. I can't figure out what the deal with that is.
That's number five,
But
Date
right?
maybe?
sorry,
Five.
this is number 5. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, but that is an interesting thing. I don't know when the transition point was when people started signing covers, but way back in the day, they just signed the first or like the last page.
You guys know about grading. Does a signature bump it up or bring it down?
It's a good question. I always wondered if like you had to
Hang
get
on.
some
So
sort of
that's not
certificate
printed.
of.
That's actually that's ballpoint pen on the page there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Well, can
definitely.
you
'Cause
can
it's
you
like,
just pull it up to like? Let me just see if I can Sherlock that. What's the
I
numbers?
tried. It's
One
a
one one
scribble.
three eight eight.
Yeah, and I should say that I also have the same thing here in the last issue.
What
November
the?
13th, 1988, maybe? Like just
Oh
the date,
yeah, it
but
might be. Well,
but even
yeah,
then,
that might be it. Yeah, I don't know.
what is that signature?
I did a quick Google search of what Ann Nocenti's signature looked like and what Arthur Adams, and I couldn't make out that it didn't seem to match this. But I don't know. Any commenters help me
Well,
out here?
hang on a second. Let me
Is
go
it?
on an Odyssey.
Yeah. Well, while you're doing that, let's look at this comic. So, yeah, as you can see, like we're on average, we're what, like 8 panels a page, like.
Yeah,
um,
there's like when you said these are dense, I was like, all right, come on, like how dense can they be?
yeah, for
Jeez.
the audience, I was like a week ago, but when we ended the last episode, I told these guys, okay, you got to read Longshot number 6, and Colin, I think, was like 6 issues. That's nothing. And I was like, no, hold on, these are dense.
Yeah,
It's
they're
gonna take a
pretty
while.
wordy, eh?
Yeah, there's 8 pages on that right hand page alone. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8. Yeah, there's 16 pages or 16 panels there in view right now.
However, this is like a storytelling flourish, so I don't know if this fully works because when you do this as a storyteller, it makes it appear slow motion.
Yeah.
Um, which I don't know if that was his intention entirely, but despite whatever his intention is, that is what the effect is because each bit of gutter space is like time in between, and so you get a kind of jerky pause, and so it creates the illusion of yes, slow motion running.
Yeah,
Um,
usually slow motion is used to depict like you can only see this action when we slow it down, like the Matrix. Like you only get the bullet dodge because they slow it down.
or I mean, or it's yeah, with the Matrix is done for stylistic effect. Like here we have this. This is a good use of that sort of slow motion effect as like someone is being kidnapped. I guess this is Ricochet Rita and Nocenti being kidnapped by Mojo and Spiral, and she's being pulled into a portal, and so you get 3 panels, and you this works because it's the horror of her being kidnapped and potentially becoming a slave on this slave world. So that's
And
interesting.
depicts her resistance, right? Like if it was just
Yeah,
zoop, it would seem as though she just got taken, but we know like she doesn't want this at all.
yeah. So and all of this might have been his intention, But that I mean that's the fun of storytelling too, is you can do these little tricks to slow people down and slow the readers down or speed them up or give the illusion of things speeding up and slowing down
I love these
or
old ads
highlighting the horror.
that you
You'll
bump into on these too. I had no idea. I wish I knew there were cherry Fig Newtons when I was a kid.
Cherry Fig Newtons. So look at this. We've got an image style anchor
Yeah,
image.
yeah. This really stood out to me. I was going over these today, and I thought, what?
Dude,
How is this being used?
even that pose has been aped by Liefeld like a
It's got
hundred
the
thousand times.
it's yeah, it's
Yeah,
got the extremely long Liefeld legs. Yeah.
Just some dude running. You think?
yeah. Like putting one out to the like.
Yeah,
Rah!
yeah.
He loves. He absolutely loves like the arms akimbo to communicate running.
Yeah, and there's another page back here that just like reeks of. I mean, this just reminds me so much of the image generation, just in the excess, which I don't say excess in a bad way. I just mean that, like, if there's magic emanating out of this room, there is a lot of magic emanating out of this room. There's just like so much imagery just like leaking out. There's,
Yeah.
that's not quite Kirby crackle, but it's just, I don't know, just
Well, like Boom Boom from New Mutants, or
all this
like
rendering.
his kinetic energy and stuff like that. Like no, a lot of the '90s artists employed effects like that. Definitely
Yeah.
from Adam's influence.
Yeah, and the whole point is just like you can see this out of Jim Lee of just like putting so much into the page, just filling the page with as much as you can fit. And yeah, I mean this entire series seems to be like and yeah, as I've said before, just influenced an entire generation. This is fun Doctor Strange imagery with like all these like faces on a pillar.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of a it's harkening back to the horror aspects of it that came about in the kind of mid 70s for Doctor Strange, where it became less about fantastical magic and more about spooky weirdness.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if he looked at if Arthur Adams was looking at that famous Michael Golden Doctor Strange comic.
Ah, yes. So here's where I was thinking, man, I wish he did have less panels. Like that ship.
You
Like
want
I
it as a
wish that
splash page.
yeah, just the whole thing, you know? It's just so
So
cool.
uh, let's talk spoilers. Do you guys know? Well, I guess you guys wouldn't know, but well, I don't know. Do you guys know the identity of Spiral? Her real name?
No.
No.
Uh,
uh, because it's not fully revealed in this series, but it's hinted at in well, very loosely hinted at in like the next issue, the final issue. But apparently, I think the plan was that Ricochet Rita is Spiral.
okay.
So this is sort of a bit of an origin where she's like
She
being
gets turned into
exposed to
this.
slowly being turned mad, I suppose, by seeing just the entire universe and it's just too much. And this is a small part of her origin, and she will eventually become Spiral.
Huh.
Which you would think people would say, "Hey, she looks like me" or something, but that's not how comics work.
No, 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 no. Everybody looks like everybody and yet no one.
So here we get more flashbacks of Longshot as he's realizing his past.
This was the only time so throughout these issues, female characters have been commenting how good looking
Yeah, every
the
female character that encounters
yeah, they
them.
all think to themselves, boy, he sure is cute. And this is the only point, or the first point at least, where I thought, okay, now I get what you mean. Because previously, I don't know, he just didn't have the space to really show it or something.
Well,
But
here in this
here I was like,
flashback,
I
he looks like
get it.
Quasar, Marvel's
Yeah,
Quasar.
he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
with the hair
And the headband and
and
all that.
the
Yeah.
headband. Yeah. But yeah, just like the sharp cheeks and the big eyes, and it was like,
Yeah.
okay, now I get what you've been trying to communicate. But previously, I don't know. I guess there was something to do with. I think it had to do with the space allotment and the hair design.
Mm.
Ah, look at that stash, that dad stash.
Magnum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go solve
Yeah.
some mysteries in Hawaii.
So yeah, I wonder if he was looking at this very famous Michael Golden Doctor Strange comic, because yeah, you get that excess that I was talking about, and yeah,
You wonder,
Yeah, and it's a
or
lot.
I mean, I think it's a
yeah, I wonder.
no-brainer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, every artist was. If you were a comic
Exactly.
fan in the '80s, you were gushing about this comic. This is a famous comic among artists, at least.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's got that creepy atmosphere, and yeah, he just looks like. "Bah, all right, let's do this one more time. Doctor Strange to the rescue.
This is a fun double page spread.
Yeah, it is.
Look at how big he is compared to Longshot.
Yeah,
So I know Gog and Magog are like biblical and Quran
yeah,
references towards enemies of God. Um, this is I guess it's technically the first, but one of the two times it's been employed in comics. The other time being Justice Society, Alex Ross's Justice Society slash Kingdom Come. You know, Gog, one of Alex Ross's characters for Kingdom Come.
yep,
It's
yeah. The
weird how they can both. They're two completely different interpretations of the biblical references, though.
oh yeah,
Hmm.
good call. Yeah, because they also check out Batman Superman World's Finest to get the backstory on Magog too.
Right. Yep. Mark Waid and Dan
But
Moore
yeah,
are
that's what
doing
I
some of
think
the
of.
best work today. I'm telling you.
They really
Yeah.
are.
Every
Yep,
time they come out with a comic, it's one of the best ones. Can't lose. Mark Waid
absolutely.
and Dan Mora, it's a can't lose team. You will get your
Yep.
money's worth every time you buy a book with their names on it.
Yeah, every time. I don't
Together.
care what it is, I
Yeah.
will get it. Yep.
So here we have the last issue, and
Giant
uh,
size last issue. How many issue? How many pages is it?
yeah. So
30.
there's 41 pages of art. Yeah, 41 pages. Um, Apparently, this was just a regular script, a regular 20-page script, and Arthur Adams asked for more pages, just because there was so much story, and he wanted the finale to be great. And you can see a lot of density here, a lot going on, but throughout the majority of this, we're unlike those previous comics. We're dealing with like 4 panel pages and 5 panel pages, and this is why this issue worked well for me in ways that those previous issues didn't work as much,
Yeah.
because there's more breathing room, and the scenes just work a lot better, and the big bold imagery that Arthur Adams is trying to sell us has more room to Arthur Adams has more room to show us the spectacle.
Mm.
Yeah, and like that's a great that top panel there. That feels more like yeah, he should be doing this because you get the detail level that he is known for, and you get to linger on it. You know.
Yeah, actually, this is interesting. That mouth there. Going back to this Doctor Strange comic, um, there's an image that I'm thinking about. Now, is my suspicion correct? Or was it at the beginning? Bear with me. Right here. Yeah. You get these concentric circles in the mouth. You guys can see that.
Yep.
Okay.
And then
Yeah,
you
that's
get like
strange.
concentric circles in there. So, yeah, I don't maybe there's subtle influences that sort of seep in. So
See, I would have expected the circles to appear in, say, Doctor Strange's astral form.
yeah, and that was
Is
his
that
astral form.
okay?
Yeah, so that is his astral
Okay.
form right there. Um,
Oh, that's cool. Now
yeah,
that's some
that's
attention to
the
detail.
regular one, and then his astral form. So it's like it's going for the clean line style versus the the heavily rendered
Yeah,
look.
he's definitely pulling from this.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always interesting to see these fun influences that these great artists have on each other.
Yeah, especially because it kind of makes you feel better about when you do it. Like, okay, I'm just gonna take that tiny little thing. It's for me now. Now we can all put concentric circles in open mouths in the open mouths of astral projection.
Well, comics are a scavenger art, man. That's what Frank
That's
Miller
true.
says. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Jack Kirby said, "Somebody draws hands better than you. You steal those hands."
Yeah.
And look how horrifying this is as he finds Ricochet Rita catatonic.
Yeah. I like that he is not. He's decided no eye line from one to the other this time.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. I like that eye line, but but it was for comedic purposes, and
Yeah.
this is a very serious scene. Um, but yeah, you could see potentially in the original script, this whole like 4-page sequence was probably supposed to be only 1 page, but it needs room to breathe, and it really works well because it has that extra room. And this is horrifying.
Okay, so I've looked this up. This is from the Wikipedia. After holding her prisoner for several years, at which point Rita was made to serve as guardian for Mojo's army of X babies coming up, uh, Mojo forces his chief scientist Arise to perform extreme physical and mental modifications on Rita to recreate her as a loyal subordinate. These experiments left her with 6 arms, 2 of which were robotic, so that answers that question, turned her hair white and drove the young woman insane through forcibly involving Rita's mind to the point that she could see into dimensions. She was later Mojo sent Spiral back in time to set into motion the events that led to her former self becoming Mojo's prisoner and become Spiral by attacking her past self. Christ, that is grim.
Although she doesn't come off insane in this, Spiral doesn't. So yeah, I don't know, but I guess that's how she turned evil. Now, the one and only hint we get is towards the end when so the entire time she's telling Mojo, "I want to fight Longshot," because she really hates Longshot for some reason. Um, and yeah, right here. What's your problem, Spiral? What went on that other world? Did something go on between us? Yeah. And she says no, and he says, I think yes, but for my sake, I hope not, Spiral. So yeah,
Hmm.
she was driven insane, and so she hates her former lover, I suppose.
I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. Weird.
Now, actually, I do want to comment. This cover is not the first version. Let's see. The original cover was painted.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I don't know what the story is, why they lost the painted version and went with the more traditional. But I will say that like after Longshot number 6, there was a plan to do more Longshot. Uh, Longshot ends up joining the X-Men, and then Chris Claremont has to write him out after being with the X-Men for a couple of years because he was on his way to being in a Marvel graphic novel. And that graphic novel was supposed to be drawn by Arthur Adams, written by Ann Nocenti, and it was going to be fully painted in, I suppose, I'm guessing this painted style.
Whoa.
And it just never came out. There's an interview around probably the late 80s where Arthur Adams talks about how he's about to start working on that. But first he was going to do a Marvel fanfare long shot story in that painted style just to test it out. and I cannot find any information on why it was canceled and why it never came out. My theory is that he was just busy. They just kept him busy doing X-Men annuals and various other things.
Well, I
Did
mean,
the fanfare one come out?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think two different things. I mean, you take into account like take Brian Boland doing the Killing Joke, taking 2 years to do the Killing Joke. Um, in Arthur Adams' case, I mean, especially after doing this cover, he'd probably be like, "This is going to take me a long time," and it may have not been financially worth it for him or for Marvel to see
Yeah,
that through.
yeah, it
Um,
makes sense to do an entire graphic novel
yeah,
fully painted. That's no joke. That's
Yeah, how often does
it's
that
like a
happen?
page a month.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
Yeah,
think
he was
of.
already slow, and that would
yeah.
slow him down more. The only other times I think he's
Oh,
painted stuff.
this one, I'm glad you brought this back up, though. Oh,
Yeah, so he
I
he
love
fully
this
painted these
Appleseed cover.
covers. Well, yeah. So these are, yeah, I guess some sort of water-based colors, but yeah, I'm not sure. But otherwise, he doesn't really use color much. But we know that he can, but not his medium of choice, I suppose.
Mhm.
I think I'm going to say it though. I think I like the print cover better, actually.
Oh yeah.
I think
Good thing
I
you're
think it's more
speaking for
dynamic.
yourself, bro.
I think it's more dynamic. I think it's leading you into the book more, and I like the color choices better.
It is a striking cover. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this comic. I highly recommend people read this. The first several issues are not the best, but this final issue is really good. Especially uh, we get a side character who joins Longshot, Quark, and he adds a really good dynamic to the whole thing.
Shout
Where
out to my DS9 fans out there.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say. Funny.
yeah, he has a good dynamic where he's so Longshot is supposed to be this inspirational leader of a revolution, even though he has no memories of it. But having these characters side by side, you realize why Longshot was a leader of a revolution because he's a hopeful, inspiring figure, whereas Quark is very depressed and not hopeful. But Longshot finds a way to inspire him, and yeah, it's just a really cool comic, I think. And again, I love when Ann Nocenti writes Mojo. Uh, just that mix of horror, where like he's demanding they create his face out of this
Yeah.
these stones, and then he gets angry at them for creating it and kills them. Like this is a mad dictator, and it is played comedic but also horrifying, and it just works really well, and you can see why Longshot needs to rise up and take him down.
Mm.
I also want to point out the creepiness of Mojo having his eyes constantly pried open. I don't
Yeah,
know if they've come up with the like Mojo World Infinite TV thing yet, but because I didn't pick up on that when I was reading these, but maybe it just I just skimmed past it. But
there's a bit of that in there because like when
okay,
he's hanging out with the on the movie set, he's talking about how horrible it must be to be an actor.
okay, yeah, because I know it comes up a lot more in like the X Babies that
Yeah,
we'll be doing a future episode on.
Yeah,
But
I mean, to speak about Mojo specifically, like the origin of his race, I think it was in the Shattershot annuals, where they're all invertebrates, but and so it was all just like skull, ribs, and skin, and just skin was like folding on top of their eyes and stuff, and they couldn't even like move. They were like crawling everywhere they went, and that kind of thing. It was very like, in a way, sad, I guess. These morbidly obese, life forms are just kind of like slugging along, and like they can't even see, they can't even talk, like everything's just drooping down, and yeah, it's really quite imaginative of Nocenti to come up with this whole universe.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, Nocenti and Arthur Adams, because like she was working with his crazy designs. Like I think she referenced that like he came up with Gog and Magog, and then she just like worked with it. So I'd imagine like he just designed a whole bunch of characters and she rolled with it.
Yeah. Well, they
This
turned out
is
to be
that
gold.
smile I was talking about. Yeah.
Ah,
So yeah,
yes, that is a very distinctive his kind of, which is weird because he's not. That's not how he does hers. Right above.
well, I mean, he's working with a likeness there, I suppose, whereas
Ah,
this
true.
is pure imagination. So I don't know. But he doesn't draw smiles like that anymore. But I think he had a bit of a reputation for it at
Mm,
the time.
mm.
It's it's woof. It's like your aunt's new boyfriend's smile. It's like, oh, I don't
Or your mom's.
like that.
But that spawned the. I mean, I know that Adams draws his teeth, like realistically proportional, but a lot of artists probably do the infinite teeth thing.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
feel a bit of Liefeld
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Who's the artist
yeah.
that took over after Liefeld? For X Force, I mean. I can't remember his name, but that guy drew just like
Uh,
50 teeth
Like
in the
Mark
top row.
Pasella or something.
Yes, Pacella, that's right. Yes, that's the guy.
Did Pertesio forget to X out? Forget to black these areas out? Because those are X's where like, usually that means that it should be blacked out.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at I'll flash the roughs on the screen and we'll see.
hmm.
It's always fun
Probably.
to stumble
But
across
then
stuff
why
like that.
ink the X's?
Um, yeah, I don't know. Must have been a mistake, or maybe
Yeah.
it's intentional. I don't know. Yeah, well, I have the rough somewhere. I'll pop it up on screen.
Yeah, but that shit happens all the time, man.
It does, yeah. So it's always fun to to find it.
Even in
Yeah.
word balloons, repeating words, things like that.
Yeah.
I
It was
love
a
the
time
atmosphere of
based thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
this sequence. It's just very well done. As Longshot goes back to fight a revolution. Man, look at these long legs.
Yeah.
And the colors. The colors on this in newsprint look so good.
Mm.
And in the digital version it just like it's too
It's too.
loud. It
Yeah.
hurts my eyes.
Yeah. It's there's something about the muting. I don't know what it is. It must be like how it's absorbed into it or something that kind of cuts the intensity of it.
Yeah, I mean in painting it's called like glazing, I guess, where you add a color on top to like mesh everything together. And because it's on newsprint, which is kind of off white, that like blends everything together, I suppose.
Mm,
Yeah.
Also, like
maybe.
the crappy printing on the paper, the line work fuzzes out a bit and just sort of like blends in altogether.
Well, the newsprint also mutes the brightness of the colors too when
Yeah.
it hits
Yes.
the page, right? It like absorbs it and it just takes away the light.
That's why I'm
Well,
trying
and
to get
also the
all those
colorists,
tombs of Dracula. They look
yeah,
best.
and the colorists know what the colors are going to do on newsprint, so
Oh yeah.
their intent is for it to look like this. And so, but when it's put on glossy, that goes against what their intent was. Like if they knew it was going on glossy paper, they would have chosen different colors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why Marvel, DC, everybody, we're asking you in reprints, actually just change the coloring, fix the coloring. Don't
Yeah, I
reproduce.
think DC does a pretty good job with it, actually.
Okay.
Um, Especially with the facsimile editions, they actually printed on like faux newsprint.
Oh, great. That's what I want to hear. Because, woof, some of them. I like this final shot. This also feels like he had the time, or he had dialed these characters in, especially Ricochet Rita, but also like Longshot looks more persony, I guess.
Persony,
Yeah, because he's looked very
fleshed out.
exaggerated and yeah, yeah. He looked well because he's looked very angular and kind of stretched back, like his eyes are kind of moving, trying to escape his head at points.
Mm.
But he really has the time to get proportions correct,
So grounded.
play with, yeah, grounded,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I should point out that this is a more modern interpretation of how he draws Longshot.
Same haircut though.
So yeah,
The
and
big
uh, and
mullet.
also I think he gets the there's something wrong with Mojo's chin. I think like the fact
Which
that he
one?
gives him
He's got like 17 of them, dude.
well
Yeah.
the fact that he gives him a jaw where you can see his jaw, whereas he
Oh.
fixes it here where you cannot see the jaw completely, and it's just like fat.
Well, that
Yeah,
cover
like the
is
fact that
30 years
you
later
can.
too. He's figured a lot out.
Well, yeah, exactly. So the point is, like, he wasn't as great with drawing obese people, but he got a lot better at it eventually.
It's a skill you have to learn because it's easy to default to idealized human figures, but that's not what people look like. And you really have to seek out learning more body types and more morphologies.
Yeah, and he's got it all down pat. Like he can draw kids' bodies and stuff,
Yeah.
which I guess that'll be. We're gonna do a series on Arthur Adams, and I guess next up we'll be covering the X Babies.
Yeah.
There is an X Babies trilogy that we want to cover, so
Yeah.
maybe later in the summer we'll cover that. But yeah, what do you guys think of Longshot 1 to 6? I guess we already covered it, but just to reiterate, it was a fun, very weird, very original series, and
Well,
Yeah.
it
I enjoyed it.
strictly speaking, to Adam's art, it showed that he already had the chops from the get go.
Yeah, it's stunning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rough, but you can see why he was hired. And um, yeah, it's great to see where somebody starts because we'll see quite the evolution just to X Babies,
Yeah.
let alone beyond that.
Yeah.
So
Oh
yeah, did you guys do any art this week?
man,
You
you know
better.
I ain't did no art. I got a kid now. My life's over, dude.
Your life's over.
You bet I did.
Look, my couch
Uh,
is covered in this fabric so that when he pukes on the couch, it doesn't get on the couch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your life has
I'm,
changed so
I've
much,
changed.
Colin.
I have to think of things like this. I never had to before. I have a dog, and the dog never pissed on the couch or nothing. Now this guy just turns his head. It just comes all out onto the fabric, onto the cushions, and everything.
But you're loving every moment of it.
Not every.
Fatherhood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's great.
I mean, he'll stop doing that eventually. It'll take several years, but eventually.
Yeah.
But Taylor, you did art.
I did, yes. So I went. So I will say, I will preface this with I tried to focus on the colors. So I swiped a pose from the great Pepe Larraz. I'll just say that up front from
Because
his
you're
recent
trying to learn
Spider-Man.
from him, right?
I am, yeah. But I also wanted to really focus on the coloring. This is also a palette, to your suggestion, Eric, finding a palette that I took from Gigi Cavagnano of,
Dylan Dog.
yeah, Dylan Dog, Matra Doloroso, and Batman Dylan Dog. So
Well, very cool.
yeah, so trying to focus on the non-conventional colors, I guess is what they're called. Or
Yeah, that's a real departure from his character design. Like his flechettes are silver, for example, and
yeah,
his
yeah,
costume
yeah,
is
yeah.
blue, not purple, but
Yeah, but
nice.
the sunlight is, or sorry, the moonlight is
Moonlight pit.
making
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It is like
Yeah, I was trying to go for like, well, if he's going to be this color, then what pops against it?
Mm.
yeah.
So just trying to play around with, because eventually it's like, oh, this face, that's not great. But at the same time, they're not all going to be great. But I did learn something, so at least I got that. And as I am bad at reiterating, these are for sale if anybody out there wants them.
Yeah. Tree fitty.
I'll just say I'm way too busy to be doing fun art like that because I'm currently drawing a monthly series at Image Comics called Assorted Crisis Events, which is an anthology series in which every issue is a brand new story that takes place in a world where time is broken. The third issue just came out, so we've got this is in stores right now.
It rocks.
This issue is a favorite of mine, and we've got variant covers from Tyler Boss and Martin Morazzo of Ice Cream Man fame,
Absolutely amazing.
which is
That's
very
great.
cool.
Can you
Oh,
speak
yeah.
to the logo changing on from issue to issue, or at least between these two issues here?
Yeah, we haven't actually mentioned that in public. We were waiting for people to discover it, but yeah, it changes with every
So
issue,
should
which
I
is
should I
a
just shut
fun.
up? I should just
Oh no, it's fine.
okay.
How many people get to the end of this episode anyway? Get to the end of the episode, but it's a fun thing because Tom Muller is the designer of the book, and it's a fun thing for him to do. But it's very cool. It's the series is a bit of a hit. It's been selling out
Not a bit.
everywhere.
It's quite the hit.
It's quite the hit.
Yeah, the first
Yep.
issue had 3 printings, so it's
Fans,
been selling really well.
critics, other
This,
professionals,
Yeah.
all loving it. You should have seen the number of pros coming up looking for Eric at the most recent Calgary Comic Con just to tell him how much they love his work.
oh Taylor, you're gonna make me blush.
Ha
I don't
It's
ha!
normally
the
have
work of your
feelings.
career, bro. Especially number
Yeah.
5.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
with these issues, with every issue, we try to do an experiment, and this particular issue, we deal with 2 different realities. So every spread works together, and it's 2 different perspectives. Like it's the same layout on each side. So yeah, every issue is in a sort of experimenting with the form of comics. So yeah, I would appreciate anybody watching this pick it up. It's as Colin said, it's the work of my career. I hope I can do 50, 60, 100 issues of this series because the entire creative team is just firing on all cylinders.
Goddamn right they are. Hell yeah.
But yeah, so shall we close it out?
For sure. So thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And check out Longshot. The Amazon link is in the description below. Okay, audience, you got to do your due diligence. You got to look this stuff up because Arthur Adams, he's one of the masters. Okay, but thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.